Hey guys, welcome to the 2022 review of the Essendon Footy Club.
Finally, my boys. It's finally my time to shine. No, not really. It's not. There was nothing shown this year for Essendon apart from Nick Martin. But how you doing, Big J?
I'm good. Keen to talk some Essendon. Feels like we dropped a coach and then you took him up. So, yeah, we'll see how we do.
We're turning into the North Melbourne Bombers at this point. We're getting a lot of ex-North Melbourne personnel. And
Yep.
I don't mind if Brad feels like this is the team that he can work with to take us to better places, then all the power to him. Let's make sure we hit the ground running and we can turn around what was a fairly sad 2022. In our 150th year anniversary for us, and we finished 15. So it's at least we didn't finish 150th. So we were sort of commemorating the years by having also 15 losses. So that was very well done, I suppose, if that was the aim. With a fairly crap percentage because we got pummeled a few times. But without a doubt, I think that our best performance for the year was when we rickrolled Gold Coast, and that was the game where big Sammy Draper won the Goal of the Year awards. That was definitely our best performance, I think, for the year. We pushed Collingwood in that second game when we played them, and we should have won, but we didn't. So I'd much rather, remember the good parts of 2022. How do you reckon we did? Did we do as you expected us to do?
I was definitely keeping up with the We Are Essendon videos, so that they were always a good watch. It's an interesting position for the Bombers because, you guys got 3 first-round picks a couple of years ago, and it feels like those players are really supposed to be coming on. And I think Archie Perkins was your first pick out of those 3?
Well, it was. We had Nick Cox, Archie Perkins, and Zach Reid. Yeah.
So Archie Perkins is definitely coming along, but you'd really hope, similar to what happened with Port a couple of years ago when they took 3, that you guys would be in a similar, development type, which would lead to the success on field. But it really just doesn't feel like that's how it's been, and obviously that's leading to the position you guys are in now. So I think it's not great for Essendon, but it's fair kind of position. I would have liked maybe if you guys were like 14, 13 on the ladder instead of 15, but it's led to another, pretty decent pick in the draft. So can't complain about that. There were definitely some games, like you're saying, where you guys just really struggled, and hence the percentage on field as well. So, what can you do, right?
You can only hope that your team comes out and plays some committed football. I mean, I won't forget the enthusiasm behind the marketing team. They did such a great job building up this year, coming off a finals appearance. We were hungry. We had come back 2 weeks earlier before everybody else. We were feeling the pain and the anger and the hurt of losing to the Bulldogs in that elimination final. So in our 150th year, a grand thing. So it was all, pointing in the right direction. But unfortunately, things just did not seem to pan out. There were some alarm bells in the preseason games. A few of us were like, "Oh, this is not very convincing. This doesn't look good." St Kilda sort of ran over us. Yeah, it was a preseason game, but still, it didn't look great. But we still had some sort of hope that it won't play out that way. And then round 1 came, and it was, wow, Geelong absolutely demolished us that game. If it wasn't for Nick Martin kicking 5 goals on debut, oh man, there was literally nothing apart from maybe the weather being nice. Would have probably been the only positive, I think, for that day. it was terrible. Too many times we were just simply uncompetitive and just didn't front up. And that's all we want, really. We don't mind if we lose. We don't mind if, but at least we gave it, a crack. And too many times we didn't see that crack. Unfortunately, with those players that you were mentioning, Zach Reed, he had stress fractures in his back. He still is managing that now as well because he's just growing into his body still. Nick Cox, we had no idea where we were going to play him, and then he gets injured. So really, it is only so far Archie Perkins that's coming on. And it seems that's going to be the case even next year while we still manage Reed and Cox with their growing bodies. So, look, it is what it is. We still have a lot of exciting young talent on the list that we're looking forward to developing. And even the people that we brought on to join our club, they're not the oldest either. So we still are firming to be one of the youngest lists in the comp. And we added Will Setterfield from Carlton for basically nothing. And Sam Wiedemann also came across for basically nothing, I think. So, 2 free hits and 2 people who I think will slot into our best 24. Especially, I think Will Setterfield, a point of difference for us in that midfield. What do you think? Do you think these 2 acquisitions will be really good for us?
I think they kind of fill needs on field that you guys need. So when I look at the Essendon list, your defenders are okay. Guys like Ridley's really good. Your defense isn't terrible. The midfield's okay, Parrish, Merritt, that kind of thing. Obviously, you guys have Draper coming through. And then the forward line with 2 meter Peter. We've talked about Harry Jones and things as well. So I just think the players you brought in this year, obviously this year it feels like it's been a bit of a quieter year for Essendon in the trade period. You guys didn't do a lot, but the players you brought in should have roles on field in the 22 that, maybe they're not going to carry the team, but they're definitely going to be supporting roles. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would definitely agree, especially for Sam Wiedemann. I think Will Setterfield definitely has a bigger role to play for us, and I think he will be the more prominent acquisition for us. We were a weird team in that, given our performances and all of the change that's been happening off the field for us, it wasn't really it wasn't destination club, but funnily enough, we didn't have too many people want to leave, apart from Aaron Francis, who, was just wanting to, just things weren't working out for him career-wise, and it's understandable. A change of environment could do him a world of good. But in terms of the rest of the list, we were in a weird position where no one wants to come, but no one wants to leave either. So it was just, it was an interesting position. And a lot of us Essendon fans were realistic with the types of off-season that we were going to have in terms of, the trade. We knew that we weren't going to be a big player. And it was refreshing for once to not have been linked to 55 different people, building our hopes and expectations. But I think a lot of the good things that happen with the list is in the delisting, and that's specifically with one Braden Ham, who everybody who knows me absolutely loathes this guy as a player. Absolutely nothing against him. No, he is not. He is not. Stop it, Big J. He's my favorite player to hate. I absolutely hate Braden Ham as a player. I know hate's a strong word, but every time I see him, I've covered my eyes, and it reared its head in that Collingwood game. He had it's like, what are you doing, mate? Commit to something. It was his fault we lost the game against Collingwood. I will say that here.
You can't say that.
I said it. It is what it is. But I've also got to say a massive thank you to both Devon Smith and Michael Hurley, 2 players who have really, put a lot on the line and given all that they could for the club. Devon Smith coming across from the Giants, who was a sensational acquisition in his first year, breaking the tackles record for a season and absolutely being a menace. But unfortunately, his body let him down. And Michael Hurley, man, what can we say about Bear? Love this man, everything he's given to the club. I've got memorabilia on the wall of Michael Hurley. He's the only player I've got memorabilia of. But I'm really happy that he's going to be, he's still sticking around in a developmental coaching role. So, it's a fairly young list, and it's gotten even younger now with these two retiring. And it would have been even younger if Tip and Woody had stayed retired. Thankfully, I would love to count him as an arrival. Yeah.
Fills a role for you guys. Obviously, chosen son coming back, better than going to another club if he was to return into the AFL, which is really good for you. But then also that kind of, not, I guess you'd call him like a pressure forward, right? He doesn't necessarily feel that small forward role, but a bit like Rioli, kind of that pressure forward, gets tackles and is exciting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he's such a terrific role model for all the other forwards. Once he left, and, a lot of that role and responsibility was given to Matt Guelphy, and that's not his natural role. But you could see, he was busting his gut, trying to run down, harass, put pressure, cause that front half turnover game, which was what we were trying to do under Truck. He'd seen how successful it was at Richmond and was trying to bring that to Essendon. We just didn't have the personnel and the cattle to really emulate that play style. But having a guy like Tip and Woody is invaluable, not only for his excitement, but also in his ability to be a leader for fellow small forwards and Indigenous players that we've brought in over the off-season, especially with those three names on the right-hand side, in Alwyn Davey Jr., Jaden Davey, and Anthony Mankara. Super excited. I think we did an amazing job with this draft. What do you think, Big J, of this draft for Essendon?
I think, let me say that I think Sardis obviously fell to the position that he was in. Hayes was a great pickup, but I think the big takeaway from this is that clubs really didn't punish you guys for taking both Davey brothers and Mankara, whereas I think teams really could have. Like Mankara could have gone, sub pick 40, being one of your academy kids, and you wouldn't have been able to take him, right? The Davey brothers, I think it's Alwyn Davey was the fitter one out of the two, the guy that wasn't injured. People had him like going top 20, top 30, and then you guys picked him up at 45. So I think in that sense, you guys were pretty lucky in teams not bidding on those players, and obviously that freed you up to take guys like Lewis Hayes at pick 28. Because if Mankara would, if he got selected 25, 26, it'd be a toss-up between those two players for you. I think it fills, who you've brought in definitely fills needs. Montgomery, to my knowledge, is a taller defender as well. So you got a midfielder, a couple of good defenders, and then your small forwards and your forward line kind of filled out quite a lot. So, yeah. It's
absolutely.
Not bad. It's pretty good.
And in addition to what you're saying, because Jaden Davey is also injured coming off another ACL, we've put him now on the inactive list on the team, and that frees up a spot for us as well to take a supplemental player. So I think we've done absolutely as best as we could, especially with that first pick. We could have gone a number of different ways. Could have been Sardis, could have been Philippou, could have been traded out. I think the club was genuinely entertaining trade offers from people, from other clubs, if it meant that we could slide down a bit, but not too far to still pick up Philippou. But it seemed like we knew that St Kilda were going to take him at pick 10, and the earliest we could slide down to was, I think, either pick 11 or 12. Yeah. So we would have missed out on Philippou anyway.
Have you guys got anyone that you're linked to in the preseason that you've got training at the club, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we've got Mitch Zabowski, and he was, touted by many people to be a certainty to be drafted this year. It was a bit, it was pretty surprising actually that he missed out, and he is, a 186 centimeter, 86 kilo inside mid. So he's, and you'd appreciate this. He's been likened to a Ben Cunnington. So would love to have a Ben Cunnington on our team. Absolutely. That would really fill a role. And all of a sudden we'll end up, we've been a club that's been craving some strong inside mids. And all of a sudden we could have a young Ben Cunnington. We'll have a Will Setterfield. And we'll have a growing Archie Perkins as like a young stringer. So it's different. Things are building. It's going to take some time, but we're committed to a rebuild by the looks of things. It looks like Brad understands we're fairly early on, and we've got some time to really develop in the right way.
Yeah. I know that we've spoken off air a little bit about you guys making finals last year and kind of the impact and the feelings through the club, but also the fans and the general public about where Essendon should be with their list because they made finals, compared to like what you're saying now about where Brad thinks you guys are. So yeah, they're definitely really good, like injection of nice young talented players, which should, like you're saying, added with some of the older guys in a couple of years, push you up, back to kind of that position. I think a big mistake that some clubs do, and you always hear it in the preseason with Essendon, right? Mick Moldhouse or someone comes out and says, hey, Essendon's making finals, best list in the AFL, blah, blah, blah. I think clubs can blindside themselves a little bit and get that kind of 1 year of success, and have the expectation of why can't we be there again? And yeah, I think maybe a couple of years you guys will be there with these players coming in. Hey, obviously, who else you guys get in the next couple of years too. But there's no real... I think sometimes in the draft, teams can pick like what you'd call speculative players. So, I don't know why we picked them, or we'll take a chance on those type of guys. And it feels like you guys just haven't done that. So everyone kind of has a role, everyone feels a need, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I can really appreciate that. Given that it's nice to know, that we've got someone leading the ship in Brad who, really is sure on where he thinks that we are at. And the club as a whole is investing a lot more into development of these players. We've gone over the soft cap. We're paying the luxury tax. We had 2.5 development coaches. We've now got 5.5. So it looks like we're going all into trying to improve and fix our on-field performances, which is exactly what should happen. For too long, we've been a commercially minded club. It seems about right and finally long overdue that the club realizes that the main business of this club is football. And that sort of leads us to the predictions for next year. Don't see us winning too many games next year. Brad still hasn't put together a game plan. He's still in a fact-finding mission, trying to find out what our strengths and weaknesses are of our players. And it seems like right now all the lines are with their line coaches, and they're trying to get all the information so that come January, Brad has a better idea of what our game style will be like next year. So I can totally see us having a very slow start to the year and then slowly building as the year progresses. Still in a ideal world, and if we catch on really quickly, I see us finishing around 13th. What do you think this latter position, between 13 to 16 is about right there, Big J?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've spoken about in other reviews about how tight probably the top 10 to 11 teams are this year. and how a lot of those teams are actually going to be pushing hard for finals. So to look at it and say, okay, you guys are just outside of that group, that, you know, maybe you're not going for finals this year, but you're not, you know, the worst team in the AFL. 13 to 16 kind of fits quite well with that projection.
Yeah, because it seems like the top 12 teams, I feel like there's going to be a gap between the top 12 teams and the bottom 6 teams. It seems like, you know, there might even be like 4 or 5 games separating 12th from between 12th and 13th. That's how tight of a competition it's becoming for the top 8.
I think when Melbourne won, the top like 10 or so teams were really close as well from memory. And then after that, there was a bit of a drop off, like you're saying. So maybe it'll be another year like that again.
Yeah. So we've got a few, you know, key factors, I suppose, that we have to look forward to and trying to see how Essendon does next year. And I think every Essendon supporter will tell you that defending has been a major issue for us for many years. You're a North Melbourne man who's been under Brad Scott. Do you think that under Brad will be able to defend a bit better?
I'm not sure if you guys will be able to defend better just because that's a player personnel kind of thing. But I can say under Brad Scott that he will be able to get the best out of your players. So if that's defending better on field, if that's fixing up midfield problems, he's really good at making lemonade from lemons. So they might not be the best players, but he'll help them perform at their peak and their best.
That's good to hear. That's good to know, because I feel like we've got a lot of good young talent on the list that have ability that just need to be sort of nurtured in the right way, and trying to get as much as we can out of them to really, I suppose, speed through their development. And part of the issues with having a young team is that they're really inconsistent. They might not be able to back up certain performances week in, week out. They need to have a steady hand and good, solid leadership, driving the standards. Do you think that's something that Brad will be able to implement?
He's not been brought on. He's not been picked up. He's not been made your coach to be substandard. I don't think he would take the job and then half-ass it. I think he's going to give it his all, and I think that's probably going to happen at Essendon next year. That's all I can say.
All right, keeping your cards close to your chest. I understand. I know you'd love him to be back at North Melbourne, but it is what it is. He's a Bomber now, man. If he's a Bomber now, it is what it is. You gotta live with it, mate.
Yeah, I'm really happy for you guys. Like, your last couple of coaches have been, maybe not the best fits. And like you're saying, Brad comes in with like 10 years of senior experience. So, he's not had premiership like success at North Melbourne and then he's come on that way, but he has done well with limited players and has been able to bring in some players and things like that. So it really seems like he's come in with a game plan and it's working out so far for you, right? We've talked about bringing extra development players in as part of a need for the team, fixing up certain areas, that kind of thing. So, his job right now is to make the team more consistent, to bring those games where you blowouts, to bring the scores up and to make the wins stronger, right? The big difference between here and here going in a little bit.
Yeah, that's what we want to see. I feel like our highs are really high, but our lows are, abysmal. They are really abysmal. They're like, it's like among the worst in the league, I would say. I'd say our worst is like North Melbourne level worst.
We'll talk about that later.
Yes. And we got Wiedemann, our new acquisition in the forward line to help pinch hit with Peter Wright, who was sensational for us this year, winning our best and fairest, kicking over 50 goals. I was so proud of 2 Meter Peter, the way he's turned his career around. He didn't get a single game in that last year under um, Stewie Dew. That's right. Thank you. So for him to not play a game in that final year and then come to Essendon now, kick over 50 goals and win a BNF, it's sensational. So it raises the question: Can Wiedemann follow in those footsteps?
He's come to Essendon for more opportunities, and obviously you guys have used that as a selling point to bring him across. So you'd hope so. I think you guys really need a good second tall in that forward line. Harry Jones is there, but has been pretty inconsistent, and I think he's been hit with injuries, right? So
yeah, he has.
The spot for him there in that job, he's just got to be able to take it with both hands. Stop having those games where, you know, he'll kick 2 or 3 goals and be great, but then he really goes missing in other games. So, like question 2, can they improve their consistency? Well, you'd really hope that Wiedemann can do that. If he does, he'll be fantastic for you. And, you know, you got Peter Wright for basically free. Can you grab another key forward who's going to be really good for the same price? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, one can only hope, but you know, we're not getting our hopes too high. We understand that hope, whilst a powerful thing, can also hurt you if you have too much of it and without grounded realism as well. So we're not expecting the world of Essendon next year, but definitely hoping that we can see some sort of development in these young players and the building of a style of, you know, a game style that actually fits our team and not something that we're just simply ripping off another previous successful team that we simply don't have the ability to replicate. So we're expecting around the bottom 4 finish, but it's not a big deal because it's a stacked draft next year, and adding some more talent could be really good. We've got to sit tight, Bomber fans. I genuinely believe 2024 is the year that we win a final.
Nice. I'm waiting for it. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Catch you next time. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends about the channel and all the things we've got going on. More team reviews coming out shortly. Final words, Joe?
It's been good to talk about Essendon. I can talk about it all day, but we've got a few other teams to catch up on. So stay tuned for Freo next. Okay, guys? See ya.
All right. Catch you guys. Bye.